Welcome to another edition of the Dakotan's Election Central, where we are continuing our comprehensive coverage of the 2024 North Dakota election cycle. I'm Jonathan Starr. Today, I'm excited because I am joined by our current Lieutenant Governor, Tammy Miller. Thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So obviously you are in what's turning into a very competitive race for the governor's seat in North Dakota, and we're going to talk about all the ins and outs of that. But before we do, kick it back. Tell us a little bit about your story. Who is Tammy Miller?
Well, my hometown is Brockett, North Dakota. Current population is 34. 34. That's it. So when I was growing up, there were 75 to 100 people living there. Early in my life, my parents didn't have much money. We lived out in the country, and we actually lived in a basement for the first 7 years of my life. And then as my parents could afford to buy the materials and build the house, they built the new house above us. So moved into the new house right after my 7th birthday, and it was so exciting because finally had a room with my sister. We didn't have to share with my older brother. So that was pretty exciting. As a teenager, my parents owned a business with my uncle called Miller Shopping Center on the Prairie, and worked there as a teenager, cleaning toilets, sweeping floors, stocking shelves, all of those things. And you may have seen in the ads, protecting the store with a shotgun. Our store was out in the country, and the bad guys knew that it took at least 30 minutes for the law enforcement to come from Devil's Lake, so it was robbed or attempted robbery on a regular basis. So we would leave our shotguns out in the kitchen. When the alarm went off, we would grab them and we would get to the store well ahead of the sheriff and wait for the sheriff. Our store was only a mile from our home. So that's the kind of life I lived growing up, worked really hard, protected our property, and gave a lot back to the community. In small towns, everyone pitches in. Otherwise, things wouldn't get done. So very involved in the church and the community growing up, and 4-H like lots of other kids. After high school, I went to MSUM, have an undergraduate degree in accounting, passed the CPA exam, and went on and worked in public accounting. After 8.5 years there, I went to work for one of my clients, Border States Electric. Was a small company at the time. I started out as the accounting manager in 1991, and as they say, worked my way up, became the CEO in 2006, and was the CEO until 2020 when I retired and joined the governor's office. But during that 14 years, we grew the company from $485 million to $2.5 billion in annual sales. And it was such a wonderful experience and opportunity because as we grew the company, we created wealth for the employees. The company is 100% employee owned, and it was so fun to create that wealth and help every employee owner achieve the American dream.
Right. Incredible story. Incredible story.
And then went to work with the governor for a couple of years as a chief operating officer, working with cabinet agencies, helping them to become more efficient, use more technology, and deliver more services to the citizens of North Dakota. And then in December of 2022, was asked to be the lieutenant governor. Wow.
That had to be some type of honor. What were your thoughts when you got that phone call or however that came?
Well, it was a Sunday morning. Early Sunday morning, and I was actually running on the treadmill. And the governor sent a text and asked if I had time for urgent and time-sensitive call. Well, I'm like, give me a second just to get off the treadmill and get up to the office, and had that conversation, had a few more conversations, and 2 days later, I received the appointment letter and then was sworn in on January 3rd. And you may recall that's the same day that the legislative session started. And this role as lieutenant governor presides over the Senate. So kind of jumped into the fire on day one of the job, but super, super exciting and so proud and honored to have this role serving the citizens of North Dakota.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask you about too was you obviously in one of your ads, you mentioned protecting that store. What this was before we had Ring doorbells. You said you had an alarm system and stuff like that. Tell us a little, humanize that story. We just get to see the 10-second version.
So there were a lot of different attempted robberies at the store, and we had an alarm system, and our house was out in the country, just a mile away from the store. So when the alarm went off, we would just grab our guns and go. We also had a trained guard dog, and sometimes the dog was in the store overnight. Sometimes we took the dog with us, and we were on alert to protect our property, and we would go there and wait for the sheriff. And there were times when my mother and older brother would be in chases, literally high-speed chases.
Wow.
And it's interesting because my dad was interviewed by the newspaper in Fargo, and there will be a story about this coming out this week.
Okay, exciting. Well,
so look for more details. And my parents, they know all of the details much more firsthand because some of this time too, I was in college. Yeah. So they have a lot of good stories to share.
I'm sure. We'll look forward to reading
that. And my brother actually stopped in. He lives in Grand Forks, and he was talking about it a little bit yesterday. And he said, don't you remember the sheriff would come, and then they'd make me go in first.
Well, of course. That's what brothers are for. So what inspired you to get into politics?
Well, I really didn't have any long-term plans to get involved in politics. After I had my 29 years with Border States, I had built a good team, and I really thought I would retire and join a number of boards and give back through board service and some nonprofit work. But as I was preparing for that retirement transition in July of 2019, the governor reached out to me and asked if I would consider being the chief operating officer.
Okay.
And the governor and I had known each other as CEOs in the Fargo-Moorhead community for many years. And I said, that sounds really interesting, but the timing just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I have a firm retirement date at Border States on March 31st of 2020, and that's when our succession plan will be fully completed. So I need to work until March 31st of 2020. Yeah. And he said, well, maybe we can work this out. And the last 6 months at Border States, I was planning to be available, but kind of out of the way. Okay. So in July of 2019, I started volunteering in the governor's office for 1 day a week, and then it just kept expanding until March 31st. I retired from Border States. The next day started full-time with the state of North Dakota.
So his negotiation skills won out.
Well, the governor is one of the most visionary and inspiring people I know. He has accomplished so much and has put the state of North Dakota in such great position. It's really just fun to be part of that. And that's why I'm running for governor, to keep this great momentum going.
So let's talk about the Republican Party for a moment. We obviously want to talk about your platform as well. But there's perhaps, I've mentioned it many times on this podcast, that there's perhaps some instability within the Republican Party right now. First off, you have the very dynamic factions that are going on between what would deem as the very extreme conservative part of the party, and then the establishment. And we've seen transition with the chair, and now there's a lot of state transitions that's happening with our leaders, the governor, the House of Representatives. A lot of things are happening. Is right now a time to be concerned with the direction that the Republican Party is headed in North Dakota?
No, I don't think it's a time to be concerned. I think it's a time of great optimism. And I think it's great when we have differing opinions and different ideas. That's how you come together, I think, and produce the best output. I mean, we wouldn't want everyone in the state of North Dakota to think the same. So I think some diversity in thought is great and will help take the state of North Dakota to the next level.
Adding into that, and this is probably a question you've had to answer a lot, and I'm going to make you answer it again. So apologies in advance. But the endorsing convention that we have in North Dakota, obviously you made the decision to skip that. And it really wasn't prioritized by candidates the same. I mean, in the House race, it's a very interesting thing that went on with that, even went down to who ended up getting endorsed by it. Is that a thing of the past for the Republican Party? Is it something that needs to be done away with and everything's just going to the primary? What's your view on that?
I think there has been a lot of value in the convention in the past. I mean, I've been to the convention. I've been a delegate a couple of times, but I think the model is a little outdated. The convention used to be a time to learn about the candidates. I mean, we have so many other opportunities now to get to know candidates through the media, through a lot of the meetings that go on around the state. So I think the model is a little outdated. And it is, I think, kind of frustrating when you look at the process and then the endorsed candidates, well, I should say the candidates that are not endorsed go to the primary anyway. Right. So you question the value and the sincerity of the convention. So maybe a different model is to have the convention after the primary and then really figure out how you're going to support the candidates and work on the resolutions and other policy items. So the model maybe needs to change a little bit.
Absolutely. One of the storylines that has been generated by some is the potential of you becoming the first female governor.
Yes.
Which is incredible. Starting here, what would that mean for you for that to happen?
Well, I have been the first female in just about everything I've done in my life. Was the first female manager at Border States, was the first and only female CEO. In the industry, there was a National Association of Electrical Distributors. The 100th year anniversary of that association, I was the first female board chair. So I've had a lot of firsts, but I would be super proud to be the first female governor of the state of North Dakota, and I'm proud to be a trailblazer and role model for other women, but I want people to vote for me and elect me as their next governor because I am the most qualified person to be the governor, not because I'm female.
I'll be fair. I anticipated that response. And that's fair because I think sometimes some of that stuff gets thrown out of proportion of we're focusing on little things. I was talking to some people though, and they're like, will you become more of an advocate for women's rights? And even a subject that they brought up was abortion, and how many times we have men in office that are making decisions that affect women's bodies. Is the argument that I have heard by some and that has been mentioned many times over the years. What is your stance on abortion?
I am pro-life, was raised Catholic, and completely support the near total ban on abortion that we have in the state of North Dakota.
So then in what cases is it acceptable?
Well, in our state, it is acceptable in the case of incest or rape within the first 6 weeks. So it's a very, very narrow band.
Right. And you agree with that, or do you feel that would be changed?
Absolutely.
You agree with it as it is? Very good. We currently have a business-minded governor, and you have made that a priority in your campaign as well. With the announcement of your lieutenant governor, it seems like that's going to be a continued priority as well. Why do you feel like that's so important?
Well, I think if you look at our country, we were in much better shape with Donald Trump as our president, who is the ultimate business leader and outsider. If you look at the last several governors in the state of North Dakota, they all came to the governor's office with extensive private sector experience, and it has proven to be very successful. I, too, have very extensive private industry experience. Look forward to bringing that to the governor's office. And we have to remember that this is the governor's office. The governor is like the CEO of the state of North Dakota. Yeah. This is the executive branch, not the legislative or judicial branch. So I think it's very fitting that the governor, the current governor and your next governor has a strong business experience and has had experience running large organizations through good economic times, bad economic times, has been able to find solutions and bring people together and also put together a strong team of leaders. I have a lot of experience in those areas, as well as setting and executing strategy.
Right. Do you think that there would ever come a time where we become so overbalanced towards the business initiatives that there may be social or civil things that somehow aren't as prioritized to the degree that they should be? I say that it seems like during our last term, and Governor Burgum did a great job. I'm not trying to sit here just take shots at him. That's not my intent. But there was an extreme focus on finding new industry and stuff like that, and economic development for North Dakota. Should there be a concern that we become so focused on that there's other key infrastructure things that?
Well, I think we have had a really good balance. When you look at what we've done with Health and Human Services and the real focus on behavioral health and addiction, we've had a lot of effort going into our tribal relations that are probably the best that they've ever been. So I think we've had a really good balance. And one of our priorities is helping North Dakota to become the healthiest state in the nation. If we don't have healthy, vibrant communities, we're not going to be able to attract and retain new business, and we won't be able to attract the workforce we have today.
All right, let's switch it up. We're going to go to your platform in a minute, but let's get some rapid fire questions. Let's have some fun. Let's relax a little bit. So I'm just going to mention things, and you just choose one or the other. If you want to add an explanation, you can, but it's pretty loose. UND hockey or NDSU football?
Well, I have to go with UND hockey. I didn't mention, but my parents live next door to us.
Okay.
My mother didn't go to UND, but she is a diehard, she always says, Sioux fan. Every Friday and Saturday night during hockey season, we're at their house watching hockey.
Very good. North Dakota summer or a North Dakota winter?
Oh, I love all the seasons in North Dakota. It's so great that we have 4 diverse seasons, but having a home on the Missouri River with a pontoon, I'll have to take summer.
All right. Well, that sets up the next one. Do you prefer that time on the river or a lake, or do you prefer a ski trip to the mountains?
Well, I like both too, but with legislative session and everything going on, it has been really hard to get to the mountains to ski, so I'll have to take a pontoon ride on the Missouri River.
Facebook or Twitter?
Or
X, I guess it's now called.
Well, there's lots of pros and cons with social media, so I guess if I had to pick one, I would pick X.
Are you a morning person or a night person, night owl?
Well, I don't require much sleep, so I like to say both, but I love mornings. I get up very early, have a little coffee, do some work, and then I work out for about 45 minutes to an hour, get ready, and then go to work. So I love morning. It's a little bit of time that I can control to really think and get organized for the day.
Favorite restaurant in North Dakota? You've probably been all over the state now. What's your favorite restaurant?
Well, I would say Maxwell's in Fargo because my nephew is a chef there, but we were just in Dickinson last week and we were starving on our way back from Medora, so we stopped at the Brick House Grill in Dickinson and had one of the best meals I've ever had. So highly recommend it.
Very good. This question, and I've said this over and over, but I feel like it's true. This can get you a couple votes or lose you a couple votes right here. Apple or Android?
Oh, it has to be Apple.
All right, good. There we go. I'm with you on that. And then lastly, what's the best thing about North Dakota?
Our people. And it's so fun living in a state with, I say only 784,000 people, because no matter where you go, you find a relative, someone you've worked with, someone you know somehow. And if you don't, you get to know them very quickly. And if you need to get something done, you can pick up the phone, you can send a text, you can send an email, and you can get to the right person. And we can get things done so quickly in this state.
Absolutely.
And everyone helps each other, which is so great. You go to this, especially smaller communities, and it is so amazing to see how people take care of each other.
Yeah, you can look back through the communities that had to fight through a flood or fight through things like that. And it's amazing to hear the stories of how communities come together in North Dakota.
Well, we look at natural disasters that can happen in North Dakota, and you compare it to like some of the hurricane disasters in the South, and we don't wait for the government to fix things for us. We just get after it and do it ourselves and help our neighbors. Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about your platform. If you go to your website, read the issues page, you find a certain name mentioned a lot. That's Joe Biden. So some might say that your platform is based a little bit on protecting North Dakota from Joe Biden. Well,
that's true.
Yeah, that's true. So the question I've written down is he the greatest threat currently? Is he the greatest threat to North Dakota right now with some of the policy that he's trying to engineer?
I think he absolutely is. When I look at the regulations that we're fighting every single day to protect our energy and agricultural industries, we have to remove Joe Biden from the White House and replace him with Donald Trump. We know what great policy Donald Trump had. We had peace, we had prosperity, and he was so good for North Dakota.
Some people go ahead.
We need to be able to work through our opportunities with innovation, not regulation. Regulation is stifling a lot of what we want to do in the great state of North Dakota. And as I said, threatening our 2 largest industries.
Yeah. So what does it take to protect North Dakota from that federal overreach? Obviously, you've mentioned removing Joe Biden from office. If that doesn't happen, is there legislation? Is there stuff that can be done within North Dakota to protect ourselves?
Well, we are pushing back on the legislation as we speak, with lawsuits filed from our state and sometimes in combination with other states. But there are some things that we will take into our own hands if we still have Joe Biden in the White House late this fall. And one of them is immigration. We look at the illegals crossing the border, the southern border and the northern border, and it is creating a lot of risk for the state of North Dakota, not only just with the illegal immigrants in our state, but also illegal drugs. First, on the immigrants, we were in northeastern North Dakota just a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about illegals staying in their grain bins. They were afraid to be out on their farms by themselves. Law enforcement was telling them to not go out by themselves and to be careful. That's not how we live in North Dakota. That's taking away our quality of life. Right. And then I look at fentanyl. Last year we had 113 overdose deaths. 105 of them were fentanyl or fentanyl and meth related. Wow. This drug is killing our youth and our young adults who are the future of our state, and we have to get rid of illegals and fentanyl. Currently, we are not able to deport illegals in our state. We're watching the laws that are in Texas and Iowa and other states that are working on illegal immigration laws, and I would strongly support laws in the state of North Dakota that would allow us to apprehend and deport illegals in our state.
Another topic is social issues, and I'll bring up one bill. It's the only bill I'll bring up in the interview that was vetoed by Governor Burgum in this last session, and that was concerning the use of pronouns. The bill had its problems that would have protected teachers from using. You could say it protected, or it could restrict teachers from having to use a student's preferred pronoun unless approved by the school administrator and the student's parents. It would have also affected government agencies, and Governor Burgum vetoed it based on the grounds of free speech already being protected by the First Amendment. But there is people that are aggressively going against social issues that should be already protected by the Constitution. Is there further legislation that needs to be done in North Dakota to protect people in those social settings?
Well, we had a lot of issues last legislative session. I think overall we won the culture wars. I think we really did. We made great progress as a state when we look at transgender issues. I mean, no parent wants their daughter to be competing against a boy.
Right.
When we look at book bans, who wants pornography in the children's section at the library? So we've made good progress. We've already talked about abortion, made good progress on banning abortion in the state of North Dakota. So I think we've made really great progress. There still are some opportunities in the state. We'll see what we can do this next legislative session, but I really think we have won the culture war for the most part in the state of North Dakota. We can be proud of what happened last legislative session, and I do hope we have a little more time to focus on economy the next legislative session.
Absolutely. As has been prioritized before, and we're getting close to time, but been prioritized before about eliminating income tax. That's something that you have as a priority. I'll ask you this, and then we'll go to the closing. What do you view as the top 3 issues in North Dakota that you're concerned about?
Well, we have been to a lot of communities in the state of North Dakota. Right after I announced, I started calling the mayors in all communities with 500 people or more, and we've learned a lot from the mayors. We do hear about property tax everywhere we go. We hear about workforce. We hear about housing. We hear about infrastructure. We hear about childcare. I really want to focus on eliminating the individual income tax. We made great progress last session, but we haven't finished the job. We know that workforce is our number one challenge in North Dakota. Folks coming into North Dakota can choose to come to North Dakota or go to South Dakota. They go to South Dakota, They pay zero income tax. Businesses that are looking to expand, they can do it here or other states. It's easier to attract talent and new business if we have zero income tax. It's one of the first things businesses and folks who are looking to move to the state of North Dakota look at when they're making a decision about location. So individual income tax will be a top priority.
Very good. What do you think, and this is a question we've asked many candidates, what do you think is the thing that makes you most qualified to be governor of North Dakota?
Well, I think it's more than just one thing. Like I said, I grew up in a very humble home in the early days. We didn't have much money. I have really strong values, strong conservative values, strong work ethic, and I've had almost my entire adult life in the business world. I have a lot of great experience through economic booms and busts. I know how to grow a business. I know how to attract talent. I know how to create jobs. And I believe like governors before me and like Donald Trump, an outsider with conservative values and a great, strong business background is a great leader and a great leader in the governor's office. I would really like to earn everyone's vote for the June 11th primary.
So how can people find out more about you or support you?
Absolutely. They can go to tammymiller.com. Very simple.
Very good. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today for this episode.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely. This has been another edition of the Dakotan's Election Central, where we are comprehensively covering the 2024 North Dakota election cycle. I'm Jonathan Starr. You can go to mydakotan.com, click on Election Central. There you'll see other interviews just like the one you watched. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, like and subscribe on YouTube. Become part of the Dakotan community. Thank you and have a great day.